morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Hope you had a great weekend. We're starting off the week going back into, understanding all about our governance. We've been there before on this particular subject. I am talking about the whole question of national unity and indeed how we shall govern ourselves. In other words, restructuring is back on the table. Actually, the question for me was reignited by former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Dahiru Mustafa, who gave a public lecture over the weekend at the birthday ceremony of a prominent chief. And the topic of his lecture was the question of Nigerian unity. And he made a very interesting, I thought, statement in there. He said that, look, any solution for unity and nationalization is going to demand that Nigerians sit and negotiate the definition of what it means to be a modern Nigerian. And it is from that agreement and that understanding that we shall be able to move forward. Well, today I've invited in an elder statesman and the convener of the Coalition for Coalition of Democrats for Electoral Reform, Mr. Ayo Okpadokun. I was tempted to use my preferred term, but he will protest, so I limited myself to Mr. Ayo Okpadokun.
Thank you.
Great to have you again.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed. Now, talking about restructuring our beloved country, it's the kind of conversation. Passions will run high in some quarters. Some people will just say, why is it running high? And yet others will say that, you know what, the whole question of restructuring Nigeria at this material time is a distraction. It's not entirely without its merits, but to bring it up now is a distraction. Now, I know that you have been holding this conversation. You will be among those who sort of initiated this discussion over 20 years ago. How would you react to that statement that bringing up the whole question of restructuring Nigeria now, right now, in this present time when we have all the problems that we have, all the challenges that are being overcome, that are being worked at, to now throw into the mix the whole matter of the need to restructure Nigeria as a distraction? How do you say to that?
Those who hold that view are totally in the wrong.
You don't think we have enough on our plate?
I accept that there are so many things on our plate, but I think they are missing the point. They are putting the cart before the horse. And I am tempted to imagine that quite a number of them are doing so for mischievous reasons, while some of them are ignorant of the essence of the concept of national restructuring.
And yet a third group that you haven't spoken about are saying that even those that are calling for it have their mischievous intentions.
I don't, you see, it might happen. Then you will have the fourth group who really don't know what really it means. Let me make quick analysis of the four different groups. Those of us who are campaigning vigorously for national restructuring, what we mean by this is as follows. Nigeria secured its independence on a federal constitution in 1960, affirmed in the 1963 constitution. That constitution provided for a federal arrangement which accepts that there is a multiplicity of custom, multiplicity of tradition, multiplicity of language, multiplicity of religion, and so artifacts, mores, and the likes. Granted, independent to these ones to continue to thrive, but for purposes of better performance, we coordinate at the center and assign to the central government set up by these regions, this component unit, certain responsibilities that are better performed uniformly, centrally. That was on the basis of which we secured our independence. Nigeria development as at that time for the first 6 years, was tremendous. We ranked among the best in the Commonwealth. I dare say, if that constitution was not truncated, I have no doubt in my mind that a significant part of Nigeria will be today comparable, if not better than many Western nations. Take a look. If you read the Hansard of the Western Parliament and you read through, you compared that to what's happening in Westminster Abbey, you will be happy with yourself. It was in that region that Chief Obafemi Awolowo's government provided the first television station in Africa. There was none in many Western countries. That was where you had the first organized stadium of consequence that could measure up. Look, the first minimum wage agenda was set up by that government. That was the government that initiated the concept of free education. Look, if you have allowed that constitutional arrangement to go on, only God knows where we will be today. I'm using that as an example. So because that constitution provided, in consequence, that the resources of those regions really were under their authority and province. They paid tax to the central government. Out of the one they paid to the central government, there was a percentage of it that was put in the distribution pool, which again was shared among the component units. 50% was retained by the owners of the region. It was when the military came that they truncated that arrangement. First of all, they took away 66, 2/3 of all those powers and influences that ordinarily belong to the region. And gradually, by the turn when they were leaving office, they've taken over 85% of the total authority that used to belong to the regions. Most importantly, all the major source of income have been appropriated to the central government that was under the control of the commander-in-chief. Every governor, administrator appointed by this commander-in-chief was at his own behest, and the man was at the pain of death in obedience to what the commander-in-chief said. That was the basis of the destruction of the federal structure of Nigeria. Since the army came, I dare say, since the 27th of January 1966, Nigeria had ceased to be a federal nation. It had been a centralized unitary administration. We have been living a lie as a country. We have been living a lie, calling ourselves federal military government. There had been nothing federal since then. Everything that had been done centrally on this bit to cap up the background to what we are talking about.
So
I want to finish this one.
Okay.
In 1976, General Obasanjo did the worst thing, even to that structure, by setting up the Alhaji Ibrahim Dasuki panel on local government. That panel made the recommendation which had been existing. That is what they have been using today. They centralized local government. So that what is happening in Mushin is what is expected to happen in Kaura na Moda. Local government is supposed to be essentially local, taking the features of that environment. When I was growing up, as a small kid, those who were councillors in the local government were paid sitting allowances, and they were given their best. They were advanced in age, mature, experience, not what the humongous wasted sum that are being paid today to so-called councillors, who are being paid money in value far better than professors of the university. So that is the basis of what we are talking about. So those of us who are talking about national restructuring, this is our understanding that not until we return to this basis, you can never have it right.
So from what you've explained, in the past, it wasn't that, first of all, that even goes without saying. People didn't go their own way. But for those who are scared that this restructuring is it's a subterfuge for let everybody go their own way. It's nothing like that, because even in the earlier structure, you had said that 50% was retained by the region, originating zone or entity, and there was a portion of it that was put into a pot for everybody.
Yes.
So there was no idea of everybody go their own and the devil care for whoever is left.
No. Well, you see, that's what I'm saying. In the consequence of the emergence of the Nigerian military into political governance, eventually, along with the Nigerian Civil War, had catapulted the size, the reach, the expansion of the Nigerian army beyond what it could itself ever imagined. Some part of the country, regional clique, benefited mostly than others. So since then, they have appropriated the Nigerian Commonwealth onto themselves. And that is what they are still protecting. And that's what they don't want to lose. The undue advantages they have secured for themselves because they are men and women in uniform eventually took over what they call the Nigerian army. In quote, it had ceased to be Nigerian army. It has ceased to be Nigerian army since then.
In terms of having a really national spread?
One, in composition itself. And that is why I want somebody to say no to me. It's not for joke that no other ethnic group or region had successfully staged a military coup during their stay in office. Only a particular group from a particular part of Nigeria had been able to topple each other at the turn of event to satisfy themselves. Now, I'm honest with you. I'm not only devastated, but I'm convinced beyond reasonable doubt now that I must finish my book titled The Gun Hegemony, because it goes to show clearly the consequential, humongous negative effect that the emergence of the Nigerian army in political governance had on the Nigerian nation. The fact that we have been stunted in growth, in development, the fact that we have been held so down till date cannot really not be separated from the emergence of the Nigerian army in political governance. Tell their surrogates, those who have benefited from them, so-called academics in quotes, businessmen in quotes, and the likes, they can argue for them. They even wrote some useless trash for our own tomorrow. They denied themselves of foolish things. If the army did not get into governance, what could have happened to Nigeria? I've just told you what was happening in the First Republic. See what we are today, a country of no good.
Now, clearly, one thing that is not in very, shall we say, abundant supply, this whole matter of the political will to address this question frontally. That has always plagued us. Now, when the former Chief Justice Dahiru Mustafa, when he said that there is no escaping that fact, that we're going to have to sit down and negotiate what it means to be a modern Nigerian and how we're going to really coexist, so as to lessen ethnic tensions that the present situation and system sort of invites.
I commend him for being able to come and say that openly. But I must caution that if Dahiru have not been out of office, he would dare not say things like that.
Well, there are people who had a similar suspicion. In fact, on the social media, some people made that look, why had bureaucracy kept him from speaking like this before?
No, quite a number of them will come out to come and say things like that. They knew, but they were beneficiaries. They were beneficiaries. One of the things that people like him benefited from is the dubious arrangement that had been made that had created a situation where perhaps, maybe for the first, or for my own generation, only one set of people from a particular region of Nigeria will continue to dominate the Nigerian judiciary. They have done so. And since the emergence of Justice Mohammed Bello, look at what has happened. No, I'm just trying to let you see.
It's a delicate subject.
There are things for me to say
Sure.
over the Justice Dahiru pronouncement. In a distinguished statement, he said that after 53 or 54 years, Nigeria remained divided. The reason is not far-fetched. I've laid the background. It is a human instinct. It is natural that each one of us wants to secure our freedom and our liberty. In fact, in this millennium, I dare say that liberty, freedom is the anthem of this new millennium. That is why the most dubious, the most dangerous imperialist, Great Britain, had been forced to concede some modicum of independence and liberty to Ireland, to Scotland. They are being forced to concede to other areas of the world. And those who have held the other people into ransom by the force of arms and have refused to grant liberty and independence to the others, quite a number of them are no more on the world map today. What of what you call Union Soviet Republic? Where is it now? What you now have is Russia. At a time when Lenin, the oligarch who built the Soviet Union to the last century, when they were in power, everything they wanted, they did and held everybody down to ransom until the Glasnost came and Mikhail Gorbachev was able to see the light. And along with the Western Hemisphere, they were to break that union. Abi? Once upon a time, there used to be a distinguished elder statesman called Father Tito in Yugoslavia. He held that place totally and delicately well. When he left, that place had broken up. So, the first thing we must recognize in Justice Dahiru's assertion is this: we don't have a nation. Nigeria is deceptively being called a nation. It is not, and they know it.
Well, he did mention in his speech that look, this whole matter of everybody feels hard done by.
No, so let us,
wherever you happen to be.
Let us be realistic. Let us be honest with each other. I don't want being held down. I don't want being treated like a second-class citizen. Let me use myself as an example as to why I cannot praise the current political arrangement. I'm a Yoruba man to the core. A Yoruba man of Oyo Empire. But by the act of civil war and the likes, my people, who are Ibolo strand of the Yoruba race, we are located in Ofa. Lugard and the British Empire, in their dubious arrangement to satisfy some elements, sequestered us into, they call us, we are northerners. They know we are not. We are a majority, but we have been minoritized. Now, if they are sharing anything in Kaduna, and I show my face, I'll be told that I'm a Yoruba man. Ditto, people from Kogi, who are Kaba people, Okun people, they'll be told that they are Yoruba people. And if we are to come now to Ibadan or to Lagos, we have been told, we are under the political arrangement, you are Northerners. So permanently, we are discriminated against. So you can see the thing.
Yes.
So how can people like me praise what is happening? How can I submit myself to own up the current constitutional arrangement? So what we are saying is this. Let us go back to the 1963 Constitution. Make some amendments to it in the light of the reality of what is on ground. They've done some
because these are different times.
Yes,
these are different times, different populations.
That's what I'm saying. They've done some token arrangement. That's why some people are talking about 6 regional arrangements, whatever that meant. But the most critical thing is that were you to go that way, the thing is to let us return to what we were, because fiscal federalism is equally very essential. When you distribute power back, you will devolve power back to the base where they normally belong. Then the necessary resources to finance those responsibilities must go back to them. Now people can now develop on their own without being held down by the others. That's the essence. And
being held down by the others is one thing, but how about that policy? I'm just sort of using it as a sort of a rough example.
Yes.
The American policy of no man left behind. In this case, if you were to do this,
yes,
might there not be some Nigerians that might be left behind? And that is why they are vociferous in the fact that no. It's not this is divisive. This is a distraction.
They know they are not being honest with themselves. You know, I used to have a number of friends who are Israelis who had at one time or the other been in Nigeria. The last one, named Shimon, an engineer, was a captain in the Israeli army before he got discharged and came to Nigeria. He was in this country for about 23 years. He always reminded me, as the Israeli ambassador before I went into my first long detention, 24 months, said each time they visited here, they recognized that this is the real land of milk and honey in the Bible, Nigeria. Because there is no part of this country that has no one mineral resources or the other. Look, get to the Ministry of Mines and Power now. Go and see the list of what God has deposited in each state of the country. There is no state that has no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Some even have up to 10. All of them remain buried because petroleum dollar had been secured cheaply. The political operators, I'm talking about both military and civilian, never had intention of diversifying their effort to source for resources. They concentrated on this money and they've been stealing. Because it was easy money. Easy money. You know. I ask you, my dear brother, it is because of this centralized system. That's what it was possible for Obasanjo to get away with the murder, the kind of deeds that he did. And all others before him, I'm using him and others because he was first a military man before becoming a so-called civilian ruler. And during his time, oil was sold averagely for $100. And they were pumping out averagely 2 million barrels every day. Multiply the two together and see what that amounted to. Where is the evidence of that on our country? Look at what the World Bank, IMF, has posted on its website, indicating the amount of stolen money Nigerians have had in Europe, they have in Europe and America. Can you imagine that? One of them had 5.2 billion pounds sterling, 4.8 billion US dollars, 2.3 billion Swiss francs. And the likes. That's just one of them. That 5.4 billion pounds is more than the national budget of Nigeria. And those money are still there. So I'm asking, if you don't have a government, a centralized government That is impossible to have. Because such money will not really be there for anybody to steal.
Now, therefore, having people don't give up power voluntarily.
No.
Unfortunately. Now, this is a different kind of power that we're talking about now. Can you realistically expect, as one of my guests has said in the series of these conversations, that any Nigerian leadership is going to, well, not any. Clearly, if you were in charge, you definitely make some moves. But any other Nigerian leadership to squarely address this question?
They will not.
So we're going to be talking about it, and therein lies the whole distraction.
And I tell you what, the only way out is for the Nigerian people to be ready to take their destinies in their hands. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? You rightly put it on the head. People don't give up power for the fun of it. You have to demand, you have to ask for it, you have to force it out.
In other words, we have to negotiate. We're going to have to negotiate it.
That is what they are resisting.
They didn't, well, and that is what Mustafa is saying, that we can't escape.
No, we can't, because look, like I keep on reminding them, some of their so-called writers, they keep on reminding us that it's not national restructuring that is important.
We're going to have to go on a break. We'll be right back. So welcome back, and continuing this discussion, what it takes, what restructuring will take, and the question, the whole conversation was reignited for me, as I said, when former CJ and Dahiru Mustafa gave a public lecture, and it was on the question of Nigeria, and he had, the central plank of his address that was very, very well attended, was that we cannot escape a conversation, dialoguing on indeed how we shall restructure. Now, the other interesting thing is, and you've touched on it here, even if you haven't used the word, that was then, the way we had it then.
Dahiru talk about negotiation.
Yes, yes.
And I want to touch on that because it's critical. What has happened today to Nigeria is the clamor for this renegotiation. Because when the British imperialists came, there was no so-called civil society organization, organized labor, or anything. It was our traditional rulers. They signed treaties with the Oba of Lagos. They signed treaty with the Alaafin of Oyo. They signed treaty with the Overami of Benin. They signed treaty with the Jaja of Okobo. They signed treaty with Atahiru of Sokoto. In other words, they negotiated with them. When the military was leaving, we did not have any negotiation. They just passed us on to the succeeding Nigerian political elite. And since then, Nigerian nationalities have not been asked the question as to whether or not they want to be part of Nigeria.
And that's the tension that the former CGN was talking about.
So if you
there are ethnic tensions.
Yeah, because Nigerians have not been asked to take decision one way or the other. Do you want to remain in Nigeria? Perhaps because of the long period of interaction, the response will be yes. But then the second question must be answered. It will be, if we are going to stay together in the same country, it will be on what terms? What will be the modus operandi? What will be the rule of engagement? So that
such that everybody will still have a sense of belonging. I think that's
the kernel of the thing.
Yes.
That we will sit down together. Responses from all these questions that are put, that are summed up to be called the national question. responses from different parts of Nigeria will now be packaged together. We will agree to disagree and then come to some conclusion on major matters. That will be the basis upon which we will write a new constitution that we can reasonably and honestly claim to be a constitution made by us, for us, and in our own interest. And it will respond to what the jurists call autochthonous constitution, homemade. That's made by us. That's what we are asking for. Now, all that we've had since the advent of the colonial empire, all the ones the constitutional arrangement they made was made from the colonial office, not by us. Even though some measure of input from us, but the ultimate decision and what they finally included were from the colonial office. Since then, the Nigerian army had taken over. Everything had been dictated by the Nigerian army. Till today, there had been no constitutional arrangement really, which was essentially that of the Nigerian nation, particularly choreographed by the ethnic nationalities that were the building blocks upon which this geographical expression was formulated. And not until you return to that, you are joking.
Well, the last so-called national conference, as you know, they asked for 50 additional states. It has been commented upon since then that even if you give that, for example, just for the sake of discussion, there will be further splintering. And so the question has come up really is, look, as important as all these issues are, certainly tensions, you cited your own example. You're a Yoruba man from your old Oyo Empire. We have to now translate that into what it means as a modern Nigerian, and there are other people, other nationalities like that. Isn't it a distraction, is what some people are saying, and they don't mean that in a dismissive sort of way, but that we're in a pool of barracudas right now, and we're just trying to get our behind out of the economic barracuda pool, and now you complicate it with all of this. What would you say to that?
Yori, I say once again that they are putting the cart before the horse.
You got to sort that question out first.
If the political arrangement is not right, you will not succeed as you will want to on the economic activity. I'm totally opposed to this balkanization.
Okay, so for you, it doesn't mean
it does not make sense.
Of the country.
What the army had done cannot command the test of any legitimacy. No scientific parameter for what they did. It was to satisfy various dubious demands of their friends, colleagues in uniform and outside, their concubines, their wives, and the likes. That's what they did. That was what they did. Take a particular example of the creation of Delta State. Delta State. Delta State. See where the place is located, and now see the headquarters, the home state of Babangida's wife. The day Babangida was creating 6 additional states in 1990, was it 1991? If you look at the listing, there was nothing about Okun people. Mm-hmm. 2 or 3 local government, or 3 or 4 local government from there that were formerly in Kwara. There was no reason for them being taken to what is now grouped into Kogi State.
So you see, you see a lot of unfairness all over the place.
It was done to satisfy the dubious demand of his own friends and colleagues, and then totally undermining the collective interest, dignity, honor of the Yoruba nation. I'm talking of the Kogi Okun people that have been taken away and then minoritized in that place. They can never be governor.
Are you not concerned that with your emphasis in your presentation on your ethnic group.
Yes.
That this can be misunderstood.
For God's sake, I dare say that I care less about those characters who want to deliberately misconstrue. I'm not ready to please them, to displease the essential thing that ought to happen to Nigeria.
So some of their grievance that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, some of their writers. So we would like there's one of them. He knows that I'm talking to him, who will always write this funny theory of his that it is not matter of national instruction. It's about the person that is in office.
Okay.
What kind of nonsense is that one?
Okay. Look, it's an impassioned subject, Mr. Okpadokun.
Yes.
Let me. I think someone else who probably can speak, from another perspective, is a viewer on our program, Alhaji Hassan. Usually calls him from Lekki, but right now he's in Kaduna. Good morning, Alhaji Hassan.
Good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning, Chief Ayo Okpadokun.
Sir, thank you. I'm not a chief. I'm ordinary Ayo Okpadokun.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are the ones to call you chief because you are one of the front runners of our democracy.
Thank you, sir.
And you fought for democracy, and we appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
What is very clear, Mr. Ayo Okpadokun, I listened carefully, and I would like to make the following submission based on what you have said about the regional system, but the people being coerced together to live by force. Let us look at it very well. Throughout the country, I'm referring to the north, west, east, and south. Both the old empires you see, they were brought together by force. None of it, even the Emirates, that people were called upon to form them. People came with their firepowers and put them together. But what is very clear here, I made it very, very simple and clear. I was on the program the other time about the structuring. You see, the problem of Nigeria is not a problem of regional system. We knew regional system succeeded. But the real regional system you are talking about, it wasn't the making of the Westerners, neither. It was the making of colonial masters. The colonial master brought the template. Even in the council, the Obas, the emirs, the Obis, and the Obons are just floor members. They don't have a say on that council. So why are we fighting over something we are not part of? And Nigerians, I would like to re-emphasize it again. Now, after what we call sincerity of purpose, we are after that is laden with probity, transparency, and accountability. We don't want to go back to any geographical arrangement. When you go through history, all the empires, people came and conquered people. The colonial masters had the upper hand over the whole country, and they put everything together. So all these things, no one had our input. This is the first time in Nigerian history we are having our input in our governance. This is the first time in our history of Nigeria where we are getting to know what is happening underneath. Everything was declared to us before. But let us see how we can support this. I'm seeing this thing as a distraction. Distraction by the people that lost out in the political calculus of the country. I'm seeing this as a calculated attempt by some people to whip up sentiment in order to achieve their political ambition in future. Nigerians are wiser by the day. What Nigerians are after, we don't care about where you come from. What we want is for you to give us the dividend of democracy. What we want is for us to have a total democracy. Democracy means adherence to the rule of law. It's not only limited to voting alone. Democracy is about everything. Good morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alhaji Hassan.
Thank you very much, Hassan. But I differ from his generalization of the matter. I am.
He seems to be emphasizing governance.
I'm saying
governance.
I'm
first.
saying,
and you say that is putting the cart before the horse.
It's putting the cart before the horse. He should not tell. They maybe can tell what he has said now to those who don't understand the implication. of what we now have, a situation where some people, because of the historical epoch in Nigeria, have seized the Nigerian Commonwealth, and they have had that dubious advantages, and they are holding on to it till eternity at the expense of all the remaining part of us.
Yes.
We have been made to be bystanders.
But the point is being made that all of that time we were, so to speak, seeing through a glass darkly.
It's not
but
true.
Now, for the first time, things are being made known to us. A certain measure of transparency has come with this current administration that you just couldn't have thought about before. And now that we have this, let's capitalize on it, so they say, so that side of the argument says, and not be distracted by those who want turbulence, such that the benefits of this, if you want new broom, cannot be obtained.
And that's why I said I disagree with him. I'm saying that fundamentally, we must reorder this political arrangement. This arrangement cannot stand. Centralizing our social services and our very basic essence, centralizing it, cannot serve any purpose that is good.
In the long term.
In the
long term.
No, but not even in the short term. It has not served in the past and will not serve in the future. What am I talking about? Look, under federal constitution, every parliament has powers to appoint, to establish its own police force, so that laws, bylaws, enactments made by that parliament can be policed, can be enforced. In the Nigerian setting, since the advent of the military, they totally abrogated even the native authority police. There's no state police.
But things like that is what the former CGN Mustafa was saying needs to be squarely confronted. We talk to each other. All these grievances be honestly aired, then
you see,
we can move forward.
You'll be atomizing it. The fundamental thing is for us to go back to the federal constitution. When we go back to federal arrangement, all those features will fall in squarely. Fiscal federalism will fall in by it. A situation where we have been so-called been governed unreasonably administered through a centralized police force that is under the command and dictate of certain elements to our own detriment, cannot be allowed to remain.
Mazi Okoroafo, thank you very much for holding on. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, sir. That's Comrade Mazi Patrick Okoroafo. Good morning, Mr. Ayo, our guest, and good morning, Mr. Ayori.
Good morning, sir.
I want to find out from Mr. Ayo, sir. Sir, you see, Nigeria, we are based on 6 geopolitical zones. To me, as an individual, don't you think it is wise for us as a country to move forward to 8 geopolitical zones?
Okay.
8 geopolitical zones, looking at the modern and the state age you are facing. Now, let's go back to Nigeria as so back at 1970s and 1980s. You see, the lifestyle, those days, you can walk into Okoroman house and say that relax and eat, feel free. But presently, what is the situation? We have now looking at the scenario, what's happening now in 1970s. In those 1970s, all these cancers, named the malaria type, were not there. But now look at what is happening in the country. Don't we think of going back to the lifestyle of the olden days? Because whether federal or state, the local government, they are just present-day local government, they are not even living up to the situation. And that is why you see everybody rushing to the federal capital. Everybody saying, I'm traveling to Abuja. As if there's money there in Abuja. When you don't walk in, you grab and go out, leaving the local government time. Even the state itself now, the state is just shaking. Mr. Ayo, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, Mazi.
I thank you, Okoroafo. But you know, it raised a matter. The first one was whether or not we should not go to 8 states. I have no quarrel with
regions.
that. Region or something. Zone. I don't have quarrel with that. In fact, the Movement for National Reformation recommended 8, not 6. So I don't have quarrel with that one. Because if you look, the place now called Delta and Edo State had not historically, they never had anything to do with the other part of the South-South. So they will stand on their own. Perhaps that gives some credence to that arrangement, that it's zonal or regional arrangement. But then, let me say quite frankly, that when we're talking about the current situation as to how it can never help us, it is because centralization of the entire Nigerian nation had produced negative dividends. So it can never be a distraction. If we do the right thing now.
But do we have, can we? We already have our hands full. That's why I was speaking about in the long term, yes. But maybe even medium. But in the immediate term,
look, sir,
that's why people are saying that important as it could be, it perhaps is not a priority at the moment.
It is the greatest priority if we are wise. And we should wise up. Because, look at budget, the Nigerian budget. I ask you, Nigeria today, the central government is involved in agriculture massively. They are spending fortune. The Minister of Finance, in our address 2 days ago, was talking seriously about the volume, humongous money they are spending on agriculture. Where is the federal government land?
Okay, let me see if I can squeeze in our last call. We have a caller on the line. Taufik, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling.
Good morning, Mr. Ayo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you see, what Mr. Ayo is saying can be is that sense in it. But what we should realize is that the Nigerian today is going to the Nigerian of yesterday. You can see the amount of calling from Abia. You are talking about going back to the regional governance, and he is even telling you to additional. That is where we have a crisis. People will now still be demanding. What I expect, the true federalism that we're talking about today, why can't we even start enforcing it from the state level? Any local government that exists? No. And we talk about true federalism. All the governors by the state, they have not made the local government to become their militaries. What I'm not saying is that let's start our cause from the state. That was more easier than we fighting from the national level. No, look at it. The previous governor, the previous government of the President Jonathan, he was in office towards the tail end. He brought in constitutional conference like a kangaroo. If we are really serious, whenever a government comes in, let's be serious at the initial stage. And sir, Mr. Ayo, what you say is about 20 years ago, you have been on this advocation. You have advocating for it, for us to have it. What I expect, that should be a continuous thing. During Jonathan, we didn't hear you talking much about it. That is why you see the present government today feel and look at it as a distraction. Because when we have a cause, let's fight it whoever is in governance then.
All right, then. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I've got to interrupt you because we've just about run out of time.
I didn't get what he was saying.
The line was difficult, and it was difficult, so couldn't really make out. You say you couldn't hear it?
No, I couldn't understand what he was talking about.
Yes.
But I must let people be aware in closing up this matter.
And briefly, please. We've run out of time.
I agree with that. We have a lot on our plate. And I commend President Buhari particularly for the unrelentless war he's fighting against corruption. I believe him that he has the capacity to get it done. I'm happy that the new law that is going to aid him to be able to make a success of the war against corruption, I think have been fashioned, ready now by Professor Isaiah Committee. I pray that they quickly get that one passed. If they take it to the National Assembly and the leadership and Saraki leadership of Sunday, and if they want to make a joke with it, Nigerians will rise up. We will go to the National Assembly. We will be there until they pass that law. So I commend him for that. On the matter of the economy, I am saying in all sense of responsibility, it is injurious to our corporate existence for people not to be mindful of what they say over the current state of the economy. That was not the creation of Buhari. It has been a cumulative effect of the terrible governance we've had in the last 16 years.
And we've completely run out of time. But I think that's the point right there. And I think nobody's going to argue that particular point. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayo Okpadokun, for coming on and sharing your passionate view on this whole question of the absolute indispensable need to restructure the country.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on.
It's a pleasure.
I'll be back tomorrow, God being my strength, with a fresh edition of the program. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.